Hello and welcome to our round 5 coverage. Here you're seeing the standings after 4 rounds of Swiss. We got a few players we recognise from the 300 plus PTQ the previous day.
Yeah, Andrew Devine once again putting in a really good performance here.
But for this particular round we'll be seeing Aaron Biddle playing up against Andrew Devine.
Yeah, matchup between two very solid players. Aaron is the youngest PTQ winner in UK history, I believe. And to be honest, I think it'd be doing him a bit of a disservice to say that he's good for someone as young as he is. I think he's just a good player, period. And he's playing a blue-white-red control deck, similar to what we saw Ross Silcock playing yesterday in the PTQ. And Andrew Devine is on his tried and tested Naya deck that he top-8'd the PTQ yesterday with as well.
Obviously there's going to be very few people who've had chance to switch decks completely from yesterday if they weren't happy.
Yeah, I think Andrew's changed like 2 cards of his main deck from yesterday. That's pretty much it. And
he's just lobbing back his. They're both lobbing back their terrible openers.
Yeah, but they are kind enough to at least show it to the camera. So
we've cut out a bit of the old shuffling. No one wants to watch a minute of that.
No
one wants to listen to a minute of us blabbing about particular things as we're trying to stall for time.
Yeah. So here we go.
So which of these decks improves going down to 6 the better, really?
I mean, the blue-white-red control deck draws a lot of cards, but it's very reliant on laying land, so it's going to be short on one of those 2 things, you'd think, whereas Andrew's deck's kind of all forward all the time is pretty much the way he's going to do things in this game.
He really needs a 3-drop though, and here it comes.
It's Domri Rade, so it's not technically a threat, but it's he's going to draw some cards, and Thundermoor Hellkite being one there.
So that's a bit of what we call in the trade foreshadowing.
Yeah, I think that Andrew's going to be he's basically just warning Aaron, by the way, big stuff coming. Aaron milling 2 land there off his Thought Scour. That's pretty much about as bad as a Thought Scour can get for the blue-white-red
I mean,
deck.
I think Domrirad's quite an interesting card. For example, if you compare it to a certain goblin that's a 1-drop in Legacy.
That'd be the old
2/2 with haste when it attacks.
The old goblin guide, yeah.
Because a lot of people say, oh, but occasionally your opponent draws a land, and that's a disadvantage. But of course, the advantage being is you get to see a lot of your opponent's deck when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, and if they don't have a land, you get to see exactly what they're drawing.
And so you get to see a similar kind of thing here with Domriad. Obviously, drawing extra cards is nice, but having to reveal them to your opponents is not always the best.
Yeah, it's not always what you want to be. It's not always what you want to be doing. But Andrew just asking, is this Thundermoor Hellkite okay? And Aaron disagrees that Thundermoor Hellkite is okay.
And maybe Aaron might have played something if he didn't know what was going to happen.
And Voice of Resurgence came off the top there for Andrew as well. So Domri's ticking up nicely for him. Aaron's got up to 5 land though. He seems to have recovered okay from his initial mulligan to 6.
He's still on 18 life. Well, they both mulliganed, but still being on 18 life after a mulligan. You got to be happy getting out of the early game and not being under just a ton of pressure, which is normally where you'll be as a control player.
Yeah. Voice of Resurgence here from Andrew, one of the really sort of horrible cards for a blue-white-red deck, especially if it's in the flash mould. Aaron's going to make Restoration Angel in response to it, so at least he doesn't give Andrew a token. The one thing that Domri Rade does allow the Naya deck to do is play removal without actually playing removal spells, because the Naya deck's creatures are often going to be bigger than an opponent's creatures are, and with Domri having the ability to let you fight another creature, have two creatures fight each other, especially with a card like Boros Reckoner.
I've always been a particular fan of fighting. I quite like the concept.
Yeah. Just have two creatures getting in a punch up.
But it goes into overdrive, like you said, with cards like the Reckoner.
Yeah. I mean, I remember in modern season just past, Stuart Wright qualifying for a Pro Tour through modern, and he had an arena in his deck, like the very first fight card. And we're not talking Phyrexian arena, we are talking actual arena. Look it up on Gatherer.
So Andrew can't really be happy with how this game's developing. You know, he should have been hoping for a lot more pressure on the control player.
I mean, he's quite happy to have a Voice of Resurgence. An interesting play here from Andrew. Again, a bit of foreshadowing going on here. He's Selesnya charming his Voice of Resurgence as a giant growth there. So I think this pretty much signals Domri's coming down and he wants to fight the Restoration Angel, because there's no other reason that he's going to burn the Selesnya charm. In fact, there we go. I mean, you can't. I mean, both players are playing pretty solidly here. You can't really say there's too much that one side you'd rather have one side do or another. Aaron does have a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand, I believe, but he is stuck on 5 land. That Thought Scour earlier in the game, getting rid of 2 land, kind of made things difficult for him. I think that one of the things he has to decide at this point is he going to just burn that Sphinx's Revelation for 2 to try and hit land drops. He does also have a turn and burn in hand. If he decided to go full turn and burn on the Voice of Resurgence, he would actually kill it without the voice getting a token out of it as well. Instead, he decides to Snapcaster back his turn and burn and kill Domri.
Getting Domri off the board seems like a good plan.
Yeah, you don't want it hanging around, really. Especially when you're as tight on resources as Aaron is, you don't want Andrew pulling away on cards. Aaron choosing to block Voice of Resurgence here with his Snapcaster Mage rather than the Wolf. I think that Aaron's a lot happier with the Elemental token on the board than he is with the Voice of Resurgence. And just a go there from Andrew Devine. So he may have a card like Restoration Angel in his hand.
Speaking of go, this game certainly looks like it's going to go long at this rate.
Oh, possibly. I mean, Aaron's still a little bit struggling for land there.
You know, and even though Aaron is on 12 at this point,
there's Restoration Angel. So
you're wondering what Andrew can do to sort of turn the tide, and here it is, in fact, with the Angel.
I mean, and there's a bonfire off the top as well. So he's he's really turned the tide here.
It's like a 5-point bonfire.
Yep.
That should be enough to really crush Aaron now.
I mean, it's enough to present lethal combat damage, so it's a case of what Aaron can do from this point to protect himself. He does have a lot of cards in hand, so I'd assume he's just not totally dead to this attack.
Well, he can gain 2 life.
Keep him alive, but it's probably not the best thing he can do.
And there is turn and burn.
Yeah, full power turn and burn kills the Angel and also shrinks the Elemental, so it prevents 4 damage. Andrew just like, what's this turn and burn doing over here? If that is Sphinx's Revelation in Aaron's hand, I'd be looking to cast it this turn. I think he's just got to get deeper into his deck. Especially when Andrew's got cards in hand, I think that this is... he's keeping himself alive. He's going down to sort of 2 there, but I think there's just going to be too much of a relentless flood from Andrew's side of creatures. I think that he might just be better off Sphinx's Revelationing out of that. Reckoner from Andrew Devine there.
Anytime your opponent's at 2 or 3 life, playing a Reckoner just feels just so good.
Yeah, I mean, again, a full power turn and burn would kill it without any consequences, but just in case you guys don't know, it's Turn and Burn's pretty good. Oh, Bonfire again.
So this looks like being the scooper there, and Andrew turns out to have quite a one-sided game, taking it 1-0.